So we are going to discuss the concepts of the basic and the general angles. Okay? Now, suppose we are standing here at a point A. Okay, so if someone is going in this direction and has covered a distance of, let's say, 2 kilometers, so we say that, okay, the person or whatever the object is 2 kilometers from A. It has traveled a distance of 2 kilometers from A. Okay, if it goes further, we are again going to tell its the distance covered from this point A. That is how you tell the distance or the displacement. I don't want to go into its detail. Okay, now when a point is rotating on the circumference of a circle, we can tell the position of that point in two ways. Now, for example, if you look at this point Q over here, and let's say this angle over here is 30 degrees. Now, because the rotation starts from this point over here, from the positive x-axis, okay? So one way of telling the position of Q is that you can say that this Q has rotated 150 degrees. That is how you say that this is, if it has rotated at 150 degrees, you can clearly determine the position of the point Q. Similarly, you have here, let's say this is 40 degrees over here. So you can say that this point R is at, it has rotated to 20 degrees, okay? If you're giving your, like you're going into the anti-clockwise, so your angles are going to be expressed as positive angles over here, okay? Acha. Now this angle, when you're going to determine the angle from the positive x-axis, this angle of 150 degrees or this angle of 220 degrees. For example, you can tell its position as minus 140 degrees as well, okay? So this minus 140 degrees. So when you're determining the position from the positive x-axis, that means you're talking in terms of the general angle. The general angle is basically measured, determined from the positive x-axis over here, okay? If you go anti-clockwise, this will be positive. And if you go clockwise, that will be negative, okay? There is another way of telling the positions of these points P, Q, R, and S over here. Now, this point Q, we can also say that, now guys, just see that this is called as the first quadrant. This is the second quadrant. We divide this circle into 4 quadrants. This one is the third quadrant, and this is the fourth quadrant. Now, we can say that this point Q is in the second quadrant with a basic angle of 30 degrees. This point R is in the third quadrant. That is the position of Q, and the point R is in the third quadrant, okay? And it has a basic angle of 40 degrees. So both of these two angles, they are known as the basic angles. Now, the basic angle is determined from the x-axis, of the quadrant where your point is lying. Like this Q is in the second quadrant, so you're taking this angle from the x-axis of the second quadrant, that is 30 degrees. And there is no clockwise or anti-clockwise case in this basic angle thing. You only have to tell that what is the second, in which quadrant is your point, and what is its angle with the x-axis. Please remember, in both the cases, the angles have to determine from the x-axis. Now here, this basic angle will always be an acute angle. The basic angle is always an acute angle. You must note it down. The basic angle is always an acute angle, while the general angle has no limits. This can be positive, this can be negative, this can go into hundreds and thousands, both in positive and negative, okay? Let me give you an example that how can it go into the hundreds or the thousands. Okay, now look at this case over here. Now suppose the point started, this I have to draw this quickly, so excuse me for these rough lines here. Okay, now a point started from here, this rotated all the way, and then it just stopped here, okay, at this point. So how much is the rotation here? Can someone tell me that what is the general angle over here? Yes, I want to.
360 plus 90.
Yes.
360 plus 90.
Yeah, this is 360 plus 90, and you must say that this has rotated an angle of 450 degrees. Now, if suppose if this keeps on rotating, now the second rotation, and then like the third rotation, it stops over here. So how much it has been rotated? Hmm? Yes? That is 3 times 360, that is 1080 degrees. Guys, you have to be like, responding whenever I ask from you. Are you clear that here the angle is, how this angle is 1080 degrees? Are you clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No,
And if,
sir.
yeah, if there is any no, please say that clearly so that I can tell you again. Okay. Now, look at this. If we had, instead of going anti-clockwise, had gone clockwise, like, going like this and this and this, then the same angle would have been minus 1080 degrees. Okay. Now, suppose there is a case that, like, I'm just drawing these lines now. Suppose there is an angle over here, which is, let's say, 40 degrees. Okay. Now, you have gone from this to this. Can you tell me how much is the angle? Hmm? Yes.
500.
This is going to be 500, because you see, if you just see that this much is 140. Yes. And when you start from here, you started from here, you see this is going to be 360, and then plus this 140. So 360 plus 140, that is going to be 500 degrees. Okay, so I was just trying to convince you guys that ये जो हमारा general angle होता है, this can go, there's no limit on to the general angle. This can go into thousands and like it goes up to infinity, both in positive and negative. Okay, now let's practice uh, how to switch between the general angle and the basic angle. Okay, now every one of you have to participate. I'm going to write some angles over here. There is an angle of 100 degrees. Let's say there is an angle of 200 degrees. There is an angle of 150 degrees. There is an angle of minus 200 degrees. Let's say there is an angle of minus 400 degrees. Okay, there is an angle of let's say 520 degrees. I'm giving you all these general angles. You have to tell me that in which quadrant is the point and what is the basic angle. Okay, we have minus 150 degrees, we have minus 300 degrees, we have minus 450 degrees. Okay, we have 750 degrees. Okay, now let's see. I'll be doing this half and then you will be doing this half. Okay, now 100 degrees means you can just draw, rather than drawing a circle, you can draw these two lines. Okay, you know that if you go into the anti-clockwise, this is going to be 0, 90, 180, 270, and then 360 and so on. Okay, now the angle we have right now is that is 100 degrees. That means like a good student always remember that if you are in the first quadrant is going to be any angle between 0 and 90. Okay, the second quadrant is going to be between 90 and 180. The third quadrant is going to be between 180 and 270, and then the fourth quadrant is between 270 and 360. Suppose you go into the next revolution, so you will be adding 360 into all of them. Okay, like if I write here, let me write in yellow, this is going to be 4, no, the yellow is not very clear, this is 450, this is 540, this is going to be 630, this is going to be 720 over here. Okay, if I go further, then you will see that I'll have here, this is going to be 810, that is 450. Just like you see, 90 plus 360 is 450, and then plus 360 is going to be 810. Now this is going to be 8, uh, this is going to be 900 over here. Okay, this is going to be 990, and this is going to be 1080. So this way you can, like, determine, these are the key points over here from which you determine the angles. Okay, now we have 100 degrees, so I am very much clear that 100 degrees is going to be somewhere here. This much is 100 degrees. Okay, so what is the basic angle and which quadrant is it?
80 and second quadrant.
Yeah, if this is 100 degrees, so this is going to be 80 degrees into the second quadrant. 80 degrees into the second quadrant. Now, I just hear one or two people speaking all the time. So if the other people are just sitting quietly, I'm not sure how can I help them, or how can we sure that these guys are also learning. Okay, now what about this 200? Let me ask from these students sitting here. Yes, let me ask from from Mehma. Mehma, what about this 200 degrees, beta? 200 degrees. Which quadrant do you think it is, and what is the basic angle?
Sir, it's going to be in the third quadrant, and the basic angle is going to be 20, I think.
Exactly. God bless you, beta. Thank you very much, beta. This is your 20 degrees here. And all this angle is, this is basically when you go beyond 180. So you must be clear that yes, this is going to be over somewhere over here. Okay. So you can just draw two lines quickly. Okay. And you know that this is 0, 90, 180, and this is 270, and this is 360. So this 200 is somewhere over here. So you just see that 200. Okay, so this is 20 degrees beyond this 180. So that is how you have this 200 degrees. Okay, now let me ask, let me have an angle here, 260 degrees, and let me ask this from Safa. Safa beta, if you have a general angle of 260 degrees, so what is your basic angle, and in which quadrant you are? Yes, Safa. Safa, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
So,
Sir, the third quadrant.
Okay, the third quadrant, and what is the basic angle, beta?
Sir, 80 degrees.
Very good. Now, you have absolutely given us a correct answer. Now, what students normally make a mistake here, like, that this is going to be, this is your 260 degrees, and by mistake, students start taking this as the basic angle. Now, remember, this basic angle is always, you can write it 10 degrees here, but this is your basic angle. Okay, so please remember that the basic angle or the general angle, they are always determined from the x-axis, always determined from the x-axis. You must note it down so that you can avoid making this mistake. Okay? The angles have to be determined, either it is the general angle or the basic angle. This has to be taken from the determined from the x-axis. Okay. Now the next is 150 degrees. Let me ask this from yes, Zara Sajjad. Zara Sajjad, can you please tell us about this 150 degrees? In which quadrant is it, and what is the basic angle? Yes?
Second quadrant.
The basic angle is
30.
30 degrees. Very good, beta. Because if you had drawn it like this is somewhere over here. All of this is 150. So you know that this is going to be 30 degrees. Okay, next I will be asking this from Zuna. Yes, Zuna beta. What is, which quadrant? This is minus 200. And what is the basic angle?
It's in the second quadrant and it has a basing angle of 20 degrees.
Okay, second quadrant and 20 degrees. This is absolutely right, because now you must have gone clockwise. Okay, this is minus 90, minus 180. Here you have this angle is going to be, this is minus 200. So here you have minus 180. This is minus 200. So this clearly gives you that this angle is going to be 20 degrees. Okay, so 20 degrees in the second quadrant. Okay, now let me ask from uh, yes, Zainab Sanaullah. Ji beta, Zainab Sanaullah, tell us about this minus 400 degrees. Minus 400 degrees.
Sir, fourth quadrant or 40 degrees?
Fourth quadrant. देख लो, सोच लो. Fourth quadrant. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, because I was thinking it the other way. Okay, so you go in this direction. Here you have minus 360 and here you have minus 400. Absolutely right, beta. Zaina beta, great, great. Okay, this is your 40 degrees here. So this is going to be the fourth quadrant with a basic angle of 40 degrees. Now, to try these questions yourself, and then we shall discuss. You have to find the quadrant and the basic angle. So we have determined the quadrants here and the basic angles here. Now, you know what is the purpose of giving these angles as the basic angle or the general angle? What is
Sir,
the
shouldn't be the fourth quadrant for 750?
fourth quadrant? Let me tell you. You go from here. This is your 360.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was minus.
This is going to be here, okay, first quadrant. Okay, now I was just telling you that we need the basic angle and the general angle to know the exact location of a point when it is rotating about a certain, like, point on the axis. Okay, so there are situations when you will have the these angles, these points exactly on these quadrants, I mean on the coordinate axis actually. Okay, now suppose for this case where we have minus 450 degrees, basically we need to know that, yeah, where is this point which has a general angle of minus 450 degrees. So you can start from here, you go towards this direction going clockwise. This is minus 360 and here you have minus 450. Okay, now so you can say that this is going to be onto the negative y-axis, anywhere on the negative y-axis, or you can simply say that this is minus 90 degrees. Suppose it happened to be over here, so you could say that this is going to be at a position of 180 degrees. Okay, if it is at here, so that is going to be 0 degrees. This one is going to be 90 degrees. Okay, now once again, if there's any point on this location, let me call these points A, B, C, D. So we need to know they're the simplest, I mean, the locations, the general angles in the simplest form for all these different 4 critical positions over here. Okay, so this B is at a position of 90 degrees. Or you can also say this is minus 270 degrees. So this is the smallest value in the positive anti-clockwise and the smallest or maybe the biggest value in the clockwise situation. This one is going to be either you say this is 270 degrees or you can say this is going to be minus 90 degrees. This is both 180 degrees or minus 180 degrees. And this can be 0 and this can also be called 360 degrees. So for this minus 450, you can simply say this is at a location of minus 90 degrees, or you can say this is located at an angle of 270 degrees. So we have practiced so far how
So,
to
sir, this does
convert.
not have a basic angle.
Yes, yes.
इसका basic angle नहीं है.
Obviously, basic angle is always determined from the x-axis. Okay, so this is on these coordinate axis. So these are the special cases for us. Okay, and you must learn their values by heart. I am just coming to that. So far we have discussed how to convert the general angle into the basic angle. Now in the next segment, we shall see that how to convert the basic angle into the general angle. Okay, so let's go into the next segment.